Hi, hello. We're back, I think.
I still show MASH as the next live, like our Monday show. I'm not even sure why we don't have one for Thursday because that's not right. Let me try again. I might have just clicked it too soon. So give me just a second.
Yeah, we're back. For now.
There we are. Hello.
Mission failed.
I'm still here. It's gonna fail though because I can't keep this thing empowered, and I still have 4 waves remaining.
Yeah, just don't worry about finishing the mission, abandon it, and we'll start again.
Okay. I think our plan is to just try to survive till lunch, guys.
Yeah.
It's gonna be one of those days.
It's gonna be one of those days. Mel's not operating at top condition. I'm having weird internet connectivity, which, I mean, honestly,
We
considering that
did
there's,
have a
like, a hurricane within arm's reach, like,
I was
it
gonna
could
say,
be
like,
worse.
we're on the clean side of the hurricane, but there is still a hurricane. So,
Yeah, no,
like,
like, I feel like, you know, oh no, the hurricane is minorly inconveniencing me. Like,
I mean, it was supposed to go right over the top of us. I feel bad. We canceled our show last night because all
and then the
day they
hurricane
were
said
saying it
no
was gonna
thanks.
go right over the top of us. And then right before it made landfall, it slowed down because it was a tropical storm. Slowed down, turned itself into a hurricane, and then veered right and did not head up north
Of course.
to
Oh, of
us.
course.
Because they just like hurricanes really like Louisiana, apparently. And just
Yeah, no,
it was bummed that it wasn't gonna hit Louisiana, I guess, and changed his mind at the last minute. So
yeah, no. Louisiana's like that. Just hurricanes, no.
for our neighbors over there in Louisiana, I hope you guys are all
Or
right.
I guess I
And
could also just say at this point, not even hurricanes want anything to do with Texas.
I can you blame them?
Not
Were you
at all.
there last week for our show when I lost my shit about Texas, like in the middle of stream?
No,
I don't even
I
know
don't think
how
I
it
was.
came up, but I was so pissed because I'm pissed as a woman
Oh
living
yeah,
in
no,
Texas.
validly,
And
100%
so,
validly.
like, yeah, I don't even know why it came up in the middle of our movie stream, but it did. Realistically, I probably brought it up at some point because it's very, like, focused in my mind right
I mean, and
now.
honestly, like the only time or the only reason they even tried it is because they know how broken the Supreme Court is in their favor right now. Because like, this law is blatantly unconstitutional. But
Yeah. Yeah, the fact that not even an injured party can sue, like, that's ridiculous. Like,
yeah,
you
well,
could
and the fact
literally
that you
just
can
walk
sue,
around
like, it's so
costing people
vague
court
that like
fees.
you can sue the Uber driver or
Yeah.
like, because I mean, potentially you could sue someone who tries to help them leave the state. Like, oh, that's you.
Yep, that's me. This is what I was trying to tell you when you lost connection earlier was
Oh,
I'm very happy because I found a thing.
gotcha. Yo,
And I'm
you cut
just
off when I
sitting
was
here
trying to ask you
wailing on you.
what thing. Um,
Yeah,
but
this thing. I found this thing and I love
yeah,
it and I'm happy. But it
but
only really shows one side of it. So like it's only sort of helpful.
yeah, well, you do what you can. But yeah, like, cause you know it's a crime to assist someone in getting an abortion in Texas. That means even if the abortion is somewhere legal, if you assisted them in getting to there, that's probably still a crime by the Texas law, which just is insane.
Well, and even unknowingly, which is the part that is crazy to me. Like you could be helping someone, like someone could argue it's so vague is the
It
issue.
is.
Like
It
they
is
could
like,
argue, "Oh, but that helped them and therefore you're
yeah. Well, it's
included
like
on
the
this."
airlines could be responsible. Like airlines might have to start asking, like, are you flying for the purpose of receiving an abortion? Or like, it's just like, it is so broad and so vague and so stupidly dangerous. Like, it's insane. It just is.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I.
Well, and I feel like it really sets up a situation where you can just like be pissed that some girl broke up with you
Uh-huh.
and be like, you know what, fine, I'm gonna tie you up with court fees and nonsense. You're gonna have to pay for a lawyer and stuff because you broke up with me. And you're like, you could know full well that she's never had an abortion, but you could still sue.
Yeah, and like, how do you prove that you haven't? Like, how do you prove a negative? You can't. There is no way to prove that you haven't had an abortion.
Well, arguably, one would say, not that this is really how it works in practice, but innocent until proven guilty. So
No, no,
arguably, it would
here's the
be
thing.
on
No, no.
the accuser to prove that you have.
Not in this case, it's not. You know why?
Why?
Because these are fucking civil cases.
Oh, it's true.
That does not apply to civil cases. Instead of beyond a reasonable doubt, you only need a preponderance of evidence, which is a much lower standard.
It's basically just setting up for men to control women.
Oh yeah,
like
100%.
If you break up with me, I'm going to sue you for abortion. But I didn't have an abortion. I don't care. I'm going to sue you if you break up with me.
Yeah, it gives men another way to harass women because they have enough
because
already.
y'all don't have enough of those already. Come on.
But like it's not even like that. Like even if there's not a breakup, it's like I could tie you up with it just because you annoyed me. You made a YouTube video about how games are sexist, or like and even a million other things, and then like you find a picture where she looks slightly chubby and then a newer picture where she doesn't. It's like, how could this happen? The only way this could possibly happen is if she had an abortion, and I can show that she had a boyfriend at the time or whatever. Like
yeah, like I guess I'm lucky that I have fertility problems. Because I could have my fertility doctor come testify in court that we required shots and medical procedures in order to conceive in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot get pregnant without medical intervention. So I suppose I have that, but that's like,
yeah,
it is seriously a fucked up world when I am happy that I have fertility problems because I will have a defense if someone chooses to be an utter dick.
Yep.
Like, I mean, it's ridiculous. And then the fact that they can sue you for helping somebody. I mean, arguably anybody could sue anybody at this point and just be like, you helped somebody get an abortion.
Like, yeah, you can sue anybody as long as they aren't actively trying to stop people from having an abortion. Like,
yes,
like
prove to me that you have never helped somebody have an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a lot of people that genuinely believe that the only individuals who are pro-choice are ones who have either had an abortion themselves or have helped somebody else get an abortion.
Yeah.
And so one could argue, oh, well, you're pro-choice and therefore you must have.
Well, and being pro-choice is helping someone have an abortion because you're advocating for the ability to have abortions. Like, you could also stretch logic in a variety of ways to show that, like, any sort of, like, activity along that lines, protesting this law is helping people have abortions because you're trying to make it safe for them to have abortion. Like, there are
the whole thing is just
it's
ridiculous.
insane. And it's like a special kind of insane, like the next step of insanity, which is really
and
depressing.
the Supreme Court won't even hear the case.
Uh-huh.
It is so beyond unconstitutional in like a bazillion different ways. There is basically no part of this law that you could really argue is constitutional at all. And somehow the Supreme Court won't even hear it.
Yeah, well, their excuse was like a weird sort of technically valid, where at the same time, it's not the way, like, it was within their rules in the sense that, like,
what are we doing, by the way? Is this
exterminate.
Extermination?
You can always look to the upper left.
Eliminate all targets. Okay.
Is that, like, because it creates, like, these civil suits, the people the lawsuit was against when challenging it were not the right people. Like, there's not a defendant for challenging it yet. and so they use that loophole to get around it. But like,
Can we not sue the state of Texas for unlawful actions or something like that?
Nope. Like you
How
can't
about
sue
Governor
them.
Abbott for being a fucking prick?
Well, so the thing is like this. Yeah, I wish. Is like if the state were the one enforcing the law, it'd be different. But right now, it's civil suits, so you can't challenge the law itself until one of these civil suits exists. And it's like a stupid technicality, and even like John Roberts was like, yeah, no, that's stupid. This law is blatantly unconstitutional, and when it gets to us, it definitely will. But heck, even some of the people who are like, we aren't going to do anything about it, have said, yeah, it'll probably be unconstitutional when it gets here. Which, like, in those situations when it will probably be unconstitutional, that's when you put a hold on the law. The ridiculous thing isn't that they refuse to hear it, it's that they refuse to put a hold on it, which is what they should have done.
And I feel like you already know it's going to get turned over once it gets to you. Why are you going to put somebody through that?
Because
Why
the
put somebody
point,
through that?
the point is the violence against women. Like, that's the thing.
It sucks.
Like,
and I love always like, we don't have oppression here. Fuck you. Yes, we do.
Because, I mean,
If
one of the
you
goals
are
is
a
just
person
to
of color
wear...
or a woman, you're basically just fucked.
I mean, the goal is to wear people down. It's like, you know, make it so that it just hurts so much every time that eventually you just keep your head down and shut up.
So that kind of goes in line with what I think they're actually doing here, which is they've come up with a law that is so extreme and absurd that when they go to pass another law that's less extreme, people won't fight it because it's better.
Yeah.
So I think they're doing it in order to get something actually passed. Like, they do this knowing full well it's going to get thrown out once it gets to the Supreme Court. However, then
I think this was also a bit of like an attempt at a Hail Mary because they know the Supreme Court is ridiculous right now. Because, like, this is some extremely convoluted legal reasoning. But it's extremely convoluted in the right kind of way that the Supreme Court could say, sorry, nope, it's not actually unconstitutional because the Constitution does not bind private citizens in that way. Like, it gives the Supreme Court an opportunity to accept a blatantly unconstitutional law on stupid technicalities, which is like, because by doing that, they can leave Roe versus Wade as a precedent. They don't have to overturn Roe versus Wade while still effectively allowing states to completely ban abortion, which would be ridiculous, but, like, given the Supreme Court as it is right now, absolutely something they want to do, you know? So, yeah, it's all awful, and, like, my two hopes right now are, one, that it gets overturned, and two, that if it doesn't get overturned, that at the very least we use it to implement some extremely strict gun control and other, like, things like that. But I feel like if companies aren't allowed to mandate the vaccine, why are people allowed to mandate whether or not someone can have an abortion? Like,
well, let's take a moment to talk about the fact that 2 days after this law went live, I think it was 2 days, it was within a week. Abbott comes out with a thing because Biden was all like mask mandates, and he comes out with a statement that literally uses the words, "We will fight this mandate and protect your right to choose whether or not to wear a mask and be vaccinated."
Well, and that's people have been saying like bodily autonomy about the vaccine mandate as well. It's like, what why are you people like this? Well, I know why they're like that. They're awful.
If somebody gets an abortion, like, abortions are not contagious. If somebody gets an abortion, it's not like every pregnant woman within a certain vicinity is suddenly going to have a miscarriage.
Uh-huh.
Like, they are not the same thing. See, I know, it's better if I don't get going on this, because it just makes me so freaking angry, because not only am I a woman, I am raising a girl in this fucked up state.
Yeah.
And I want to be out of here before she's old enough that it impacts her. I mean, she's 6. We're good for now. But, like, I mean, we're good as long as nobody, like, sexually assaults her, because God knows they won't do shit about that. And as long as we're out of here before she's the age...
eliminate rapists, and then the lack of a rape exception won't be a problem. It's like, you're gonna eliminate rapists. Like, what is
And
your
well, and
plan?
what is
Murder
so screwed
everyone
up
but
about
one
that
person,
idea?
because the only way you're sure there's not a rapist in a situation is if there's only one person there, because the only person you can't rape is yourself. Like,
What are you thinking
I
about?
mean, so first of all, we know that's not going to happen because people in Texas wouldn't even stay home when they were asked to.
yeah.
Second of all, second of all, it's a state that doesn't do shit to hold rapists accountable when they are caught and there is massive evidence against them.
And the state doesn't even finish testing most of its rape kits. Like, there's
No,
a
most
huge
of the rape
backlog.
kits,
Like,
yeah, there's a huge backlog. And so you have tons of rape victims that are never going to see justice because the state of Texas justice system won't do shit. And somehow they're going to eliminate rapists. How are you going to do that? How are you going to find them? You'd have to do the fucking test kits.
well, and the
first.
thing is like, like, even if we did everything we could, we still are responding to rapists after the fact. You can't eliminate them before they rape someone. So there will still be women who need abortions because they were raped.
Yep.
Like,
Yes, like even if this was in the realm of possibility, which
Yeah.
it is not, it's been done in the wrong
even
order.
if it wasn't like an
You deal
incredibly
with the
stupid
rapist
idea, it'd
first.
still be a stupid idea. Like,
Yeah, you deal with the rapist first, and then you get rid of abortion in that order, which, by the way, is never going to happen. So, like, yeah, fuck you, Texas. I really hope that Zim gets the job that he's up for. It's in
yeah,
another
well,
state
I mean, that's the thing.
where they
is,
actually
like,
give a shit about people.
they know that they can't eliminate, like, health endangering pregnancies. They can't eliminate rape. They can't eliminate all the other things, because if you could eliminate all those things, they wouldn't need to ban abortion. Like, they could just eliminate those things and then abortions wouldn't be a thing anymore. Like, you can attack abortion from two sides, eliminate the need for it or eliminate the ability to have it. And they just said, fuck it, we're not even going to bother with eliminating or trying to eliminate the need for it.
Yes, Tegwood makes a really good point here. Texas is not the only state that doesn't follow through on test kits.
Oh yeah, no.
In fact, most states
don't.
Most states have a massive backlog, and that is due to a lack of funding because they literally cannot go through them
Yeah.
in time because they have like one or two people working on them. And everybody's like, "Oh, rape is so rare," but it's not. We just can't process it fast enough.
Mhm.
And that's for the ones that actually report it, which
Yeah.
we know from the statistics most people do not report sexual assault.
Yep.
So, yeah, I just but I would like to be somewhere where if my child gets raped as a teenager or an adult, she's permitted to have an abortion
Yeah. And
because that's her choice.
should she choose not to have one, the rapist does not get parental rights.
Yeah. Are we now going to start sterilizing every accused rapist? I don't see that. I mean, that's equally crazy because I do believe in a perfect world that you should have to actually prove something. You can't just accuse people. Like I don't subscribe to cancel culture. I think it had its place, but it's gone too far at this point. Like, because I don't think it solves anything. But like everyone is entitled to due process. And
I also, like, I strongly believe in redemption. Like,
I do too. Yeah, that's my issue with cancel culture actually, is that it assumes that people can never learn.
I don't know. I'm
And
seeing a
change.
lot of, like, I'm seeing a lot of both bad redemptions and some good redemptions starting to happen, where, like, the people who are the problem have actually taken a step away, have actually started a dialogue, and are working on things.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's great.
but yeah. Yeah, I just...
Texas is very fucked up right now, and we both live in Texas.
And
so
all
in
the
case
moral
anybody's
philosophy
wondering,
behind it all is just, like...
very screwed up. Like
Yeah.
there's not really a solid train of logic here aside from we hate women and we can't take away their right to vote. Fuck with them in other ways.
Mhm. Also, maybe get pregnancy to be at least as safe as an abortion, so that you aren't asking people to risk their lives to have babies, and maybe that'll change something too.
Yeah, in case you guys don't know, the United States, like this is not even Texas, the United States has one of the worst maternal mortality rates of all the developed countries.
And it's something like 5 times higher among
yeah,
black
it's
women.
massive. Yeah, yeah, you're
Like,
basically taking your life into your own hands if you choose to have a baby.
yeah. So maybe, yeah, maybe make it actually safe for women to have babies, and maybe make it so the women can afford to have babies, and maybe more of them will choose to have babies. Uh,
Maybe compare what you're doing to what other countries are doing that's protecting their
yeah.
moms and babies. Because it's not
Anyways,
just the moms' lives that are risked, it's also the babies.
yo,
You guys claim to care about that because that's your bullshit argument.
yeah, but
But
even when they're having the baby, you aren't doing anything extra to try to keep the baby alive. So well done, guys.
like, yeah, yeah. Let's keep the embryos safe, but once they're born, who the fuck cares?
The moment they come out, they're done.
I love this. Tegwin's talking about TikTok. I love that my mom is on TikTok. It just
I have
makes
no
me
idea
so
what
happy.
Tegwin's saying because I didn't open another chat window
I
and
saw a
time that.
TikTok the other day that suggested that instead of women needing to handle an unwanted pregnancy, why don't we just give all men a reversible vasectomy?
I no, I'm
Then, if they decide to
100%
become a
with that.
father, they can have that fixed.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% on board with that idea. Honestly, like make vasectomies free, but reversals not. You don't even have to mandate it. Just make it free and highly encouraged, and like see what happens. Do you know how many like 16 to 18-year-old dudes would be like, "Oh, I can have sex without risking becoming a father"? Hell yes. And then, "Oh, it's going to cost me $2,000 to reverse it?" Fuck no, why bother? You know?
Yeah. I honestly, I think make both of them free.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, if
Yeah.
you want to encourage it without mandating something, you know.
But that's not really what they want though, because
I
it's
know, it's
partially
not what they
about
want.
controlling women and partially about the fact that people genuinely believe that if you don't want a baby, keep your legs closed. Do you have any idea
Mhm,
how many times I've heard that in my life?
mhm.
And I'm just like, first of all, you don't know me, you don't know my sexual history, and it's none of your business. Second of all, it takes two to tango, dear.
Yep.
Like, do the men really want all the women to keep their legs closed? Because I don't think they do. So you might want to rethink that argument, gentlemen.
Yeah, no. How many of these people have had sex only up until they had their last kid and then stopped completely at that moment? Like, I feel like anyone who's in favor of anti-abortion laws, who has that philosophy or whatever, they need to provide us an accounting of every time they've had sex, um, both protected and unprotected, as well as the ability to validate with the partners whether or not a pregnancy occurred. I want to know if you had abortions. I want to know if like you have been being as safe as you expect other people to be. Like,
Well, and I gotta throw out there too, um, gentlemen, you are wasting sperm all the time, and you got a problem when a woman has an abortion. So when you can control your urges, you can then judge women. Until then, shut up.
but it's not a person until there's both a sperm and an egg.
It's not a person then either. It's an embryo. It's a
I
grouping
know.
of cells. The
Yep.
number of people that are like, no, it has a nervous system. Let me explain this nervous system to you
Well, it's
because
like,
there is not a fully functioning brain. It is literally just enough brain power in order to tell the cells what to do to develop. There is not a two hemisphere brain. It literally looks like a little tube.
well, that's like the fetal heartbeat isn't actually a heartbeat. There's not a heart there yet. There's not even a muscle there yet. It's just a reflection from the way ultrasounds are done. Like, the one that they're using for like the early fetal heartbeat. Like, it's
Yeah,
all
the level
ridiculous.
of, like, people do not comprehend how embryos form, how the fetus forms when you get to that point. Like, people seem to think that, like, you have sex and you get pregnant and suddenly there's a miniature little human
It just
in the
gets bigger.
woman's
Yeah.
belly, and it is not. It actually looks more um like a fetus looks very much like an alien.
Yeah.
But embryos, like they're if you zoom way in, like they're literally little balls.
Yep.
They look like a little ball, like a marble.
It's I'm very much of the opinion, like, if you want to stop, like, if you really want to keep these alive, then just extract them and keep them alive. If you think that they're alive, you should be able to do that.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
go for it.
Well, and I like your analogy to the fact that we do not force people to give their life, give their food, give their body to the care of another human
And
being.
risk their
And so
safety for
requiring
it.
yeah, and so requiring a woman to do so is ridiculous.
Yeah,
If the state wants to insist that that pregnancy continues, then they need to manufacture artificial wombs and continue that pregnancy themselves
yeah.
on their dollar,
Well, and I find myself
which
suddenly wondering,
nobody wants
like,
to pay for.
if that violates sex and gender equality, because we make women risk their lives for something that we don't make men risk their lives for.
I made that argument one time, and you know what I was told? Men are required to register for selective service and women are not.
Yeah, and I think that that's wrong too. Just
And
because
I
one
was
thing
like,
is wrong doesn't make another thing not wrong.
well,
Like,
I was like, yes, both of these statements are true. Women must carry the children and men must sign up for selective service. But comparing those two things is a little ridiculous, don't you think?
you know,
Like, I can't even, I don't even know how to respond to that because it's just such
it's dumb. Yeah.
it's a ludicrous comparison to make in the first place. Also, I don't agree with selective service either. But
I
um
understand that at times of extreme, like, difficulty, selective service may be necessary, world wars and stuff like that, but I don't think that it should be, like, an ongoing idea. Um,
yeah, I agree. I feel like if you require selective service, that is the point that you say we need men and women to, or whatever, if you
we need
want to just do
everyone.
men, but I don't, yeah, I think it should be everyone. But between the ages of this and this, because then you can base it off of population as well,
Mhm.
and to sign up for selective service, and the names are drawn from there. But the fact that you have people do it automatically at the age of 18 and then
Oh,
they're
yeah,
there
no, I
until
was
what, 30, 35? I don't remember what
around,
the ages are.
like, after 9/11, I was terrified that I was going to get drafted. Like, I was like, I cannot kill a person. I cannot fight a person. This is not something I can do.
Yeah.
And also, like, I can't handle, like, a military structure. Like, that will just break me as a person. I will become suicidal. Um, and I was
Well, and
just
now
so
you
terrified.
understand why suicide rates are so high among vets,
Oh, yeah.
because that mentality affects a lot of them.
Hmm.
Actually, one of my favorite, we were talking about TikTok a minute ago. One of my favorite TikTokers is actually a vet who was diagnosed, I think he said ADHD when he was 4. And then when he was 28, I think he got diagnosed with Asperger's.
Huh.
And so, and he was a medic in Afghanistan, I believe. And
Also,
so
we are
he talks.
running over when we were going to stop.
Yes. Well, because we're gonna like end, so I feel like we could like say.
Yeah.
But he's really cool, and I wish I could remember. I'd point you guys to him. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but
Maybe we'll
he
have that for
talks a
next time
lot
if we're
about
lucky.
living with PTSD, living as a neurodivergent with PTSD, living as just like a vet in this country, and the ridiculous ways that people view vets, and both the good and the bad, because for some reason vets are like held to a higher, like they're like, oh, but he's a vet and therefore laws should not apply. But then at the same time it's like, oh, but he's a vet, so like brush him off and he doesn't really need care. He talks about dealing with the VA. And so that he's a really interesting TikToker, and he has a very like unique
Yeah,
view and is
like,
really good at sharing it in often comedic ways. He's very sarcastic and cynical. And
so, like, the first Rambo movie, like, people think of Rambo as like a action hero kind of thing, but the first Rambo movie is actually like a movie about a vet feeling alienated after coming back from the war and not fitting into society and not being able to cope with his PTSD and his problems with it. Like, the first Rambo movie is actually like a relatively good presentation of that, and then the rest of them are Rambo. Uh,
I don't think I've seen any of the Rambo movies.
the rest of them are just sort of like action movies, like, but the first one is actually like sort of a meaningful thing.
Huh. Might have to check it out.
But yeah, yeah,
I do feel like making like a little PSA, because a lot of times people associate PTSD with soldiers. And I do feel like there needs to be a little reminder here about the fact that lots of people have PTSD. not
And
just soldiers.
PTSD can be a whole range of things. I mean, it can
Yep.
be small or big. It can be life crippling, or it can be just like discomfort causing. And it's just it's a struggle to deal with all the different possibilities. I mean, I have some PTSD style trauma myself from traumas when I was young, because before I was diagnosed with autism, a lot of things created trauma in me, and a lot of things repeated over and over and reinforced that trauma to the point where I have an immediate physiological reaction to certain things, some of which I know and some of which I find out by surprise. Um
Yeah,
and
those are always fun.
yeah, and like it's a challenge having that. And
Mhm,
it's not always, sounds remind you of gunfire. Sometimes, it's a smell that just connects you with a place where something traumatic happened, or you see someone move a certain way, or you stub your toe, or any of a million other things that just suddenly takes you back into a traumatic moment, and you are experiencing that trauma, possibly mentally, possibly just physiologically, where you are feeling what you were feeling then, and there is nothing you can do about it necessarily but write it out and look for a way to manage it. And it's challenging.
it is,
And
yeah.
PTSD is something that, like, anyone can experience.
Yep, absolutely anyone.
Anyone, because it stems from any trauma. And people, who are neurodivergent, people who have depression or anxiety or autism or bipolar or any of a million other things, we're likely to have more trauma in our past of various sorts.
Mhm,
But also people of color, people on LGBTQ plus spectrum, people who are have any sort of different experience than, like, what is presented as the normal one. And I mean
mhm,
normal in a sense, sort of like, without unnecessary stresses, more than any sort of like cultural normal, because that's
mhm.
different in every country. But like, just, yeah, and anyone who's had any sort of struggle in their life has an opportunity to have trauma and thus PTSD. And it's just something
Yeah, I just
that
feel like I have to
yeah.
remind people when PTSD comes up that, like, it's not just vets that deal with this. Like, there are tons and tons of people, to bring it back to what set us off in the first place, like rape victims
Oh yeah.
who
No,
have PTSD from that experience
I
and
mean,
from dealing with the onslaught of crap that follows that experience.
I've dated a couple of rape victims, and we had talks about, like, please don't do this, or don't make this kind of statement, or don't touch me in this kind of way, or don't approach me from behind, or any of, like, there were
Mhm,
just dozens of things which, like, these things cause a problem for me. And like, the best thing you can do for someone is completely and utterly respect that. Like, even if you don't understand it, even if you think it's silly, if they say, like, just, don't whistle zippity doo dah, because I have bad past experience with that. Just, or it makes me uncomfortable. Just immediately accept that. Don't laugh at them. Don't mock it. Don't do it to see what kind of reaction they give. Like, just don't be that asshole. Treat
yeah.
people with
Oh,
respect. If
yeah, I've
someone
known
tells
people
you
that would
something
do
is
that.
bad, then don't do it. Even if they just say, I don't like it, and don't give you an explanation, they might be saying that because they don't want to go into their traumatic thing. They don't want to re experience it by telling you what happens. If someone says, please don't X to me, I don't like it, that's enough.
And
You
also don't
don't
tell them
need
it's
an
a big
explanation.
deal because you don't know what is creating that boundary for them, and so you don't get to decide if it's a big deal or not. 'Cause, like, I deal with that a lot where I'll be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I cannot handle a situation like insert situation here." And the response that I get is, "But it's no big deal." Well, it is to me. So
It works differently for me. It's,
yeah, like, I
it's
cannot for the freaking grocery store. Yes, I know it's stupid. Yes, logically, there's nothing to fear from the grocery store. I know this.
Well, it's like an astrophysicist saying, could you work out those algebra problems for me? It's no big deal. They're pretty simple algebra, to someone who hasn't learned algebra. Like, each of us has our different competencies.
Yeah.
Or, someone's like, could you carry those 3 boxes for me? And they don't have the musculature for it, or whatever. Like, people have different capabilities. And many people just don't accept that, like, those capabilities also lie on like a social spectrum and on a like emotional spectrum and things like that, where people have different capabilities in terms of what they can emotionally process and digest. People have different levels of capabilities in terms of like what they can go out and do. And that like, some of these, yeah, you can practice and work and slowly get better, and some of them you can't. There is a limit.
Yeah,
And
some of them, the way that you manage it is by recognizing the things that are triggers and avoiding them.
yes, sometimes, you know, part of living a healthy life is accepting what you can't do and not pushing further, because you've learned that that is not something that is going to change. It is not something that is going to enrich your life. It is just going to bring you suffering. And you look for new ways to address whatever it was that you can't do. And like, that's fine. We have our different competencies, and accept people when they talk to you about theirs.
Yep. Here, here.
Anyway, thank you for coming to our TED Talk.
Yes.
Since the internet has been like really spotty for me this morning, hello, Hurricane. I don't even know its name.
uh,
I know I've heard it, but I can't remember it.
Is it Nicholas? No. It's I can tell you. Give me just a second. Maybe I can tell you. My
Well,
internet has
hello,
decided to
Hurricane,
It
whose
is
name.
it is Nicholas. Good for me.
Hi,
Hi,
Hurricane
Nicholas.
Nicholas. We see you. Uh, Hopefully you won't be hurting my internet on Thursday. Anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and head out.
Yes.
Yep.
We're gonna
Sorry,
call it
sorry
for
we had
today.
issues. We're just gonna call it. Mel's not at her best. My internet's not at its
I'm not
best.
feeling
I'm not
well.
at my best, honestly. So we're just gonna call it. We did a couple things. We stood here and stared at a wall for quite a while talking about things that make us very angry. Uh,
Yes.
and we'll be
Very.
back on Thursday, where we will probably still be very angry, but at least we'll also be shooting stuff.
I will
Um,
also be starving.
oh, that's fun.
So I'll talk many times about how hungry I am. That's something to look forward to. I'm not allowed to eat on Thursday.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I'll
All right, guys. You guys have a
Yep.
great couple of
Everyone
days. We'll
have a
see you
great day.
Thursday.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.